Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in to Outdoor and Door Texan. Today I'm going to show you how I like to make smoked chicken pot pies. It's that core memory homemade chicken pot pie goodness with a touch of smoke that really sets it above and beyond. This recipe has been a knockout at my house, so let's quit wasting time and start cooking.
We're going to start out by making our filling, so grab a large pot, put it on your range to low to medium heat, and add 5 tablespoons of butter.
Once the butter is melted and starts foaming, add half a cup of chopped onions and let them sweat it out until they turn translucent. Although my pot pie turned out great, I would recommend using a white or yellow onion versus the red one you see here. This was the only onion I had on hand when filming, so that's just what I went with. Once the onions look translucent, grab a whisk and start slowly adding half a cup of all-purpose flour into the pot while constantly whisking. Keep adding flour in little bits at a time, then whisk it up until it combines with the butter, and then just keep repeating that process. At some point, you're going to run out of melted butter to soak up the flour, or you're going to pour all your flour into the pot. Either way, you should be left with a golden white paste consisting of butter, onion, and flour. Congratulations, you've just made a roux. Now, add half a cup of whole milk. After the milk, add 2 cups of chicken broth. Increase the heat on your range to medium and continue to whisk and whisk and whisk. If you have any leftover flour, don't forget to toss it in. We're now just going to mix and reduce until we have a gravy-like thickness. Once a tester spoon comes out completely coated, or you simply notice that it's almost as thick as the gravy you pour over a chicken fried steak, add half a teaspoon of rosemary. Follow that up with half a teaspoon of sage, and then 1 teaspoon of poultry seasoning. After all the seasoning, add 2 cups of chopped or shredded chicken. You can get extra points by smoking a chicken prior to this to add even more barbecue flavor to it, but I used a store-bought rotisserie chicken which turned out just as tasty. Finally, add 2 cups of frozen veggie mix, mine being peas and carrots. Now you should have what looks a whole lot like the filling inside of a chicken pot pie. But don't take my word for it, make sure to taste it before we move on. You'll notice I didn't add any salt and pepper yet, so here's your chance to taste, then tweak to your liking, and then taste again. Once you're happy with your filling, take the pot off the heat and let's move on over to the dough. Now, I've said this before in other videos and I'll say it again, I am not a baker and I often struggle when messing around with dough. But somehow these recipes keep turning out absolutely delicious, so if I can do it, y'all can do it, I promise. I went the cheap and easy route this go around and I'm working with a pre-made pie crust already sitting inside a tinfoil pie pan. The directions assure me that I can use the second pie crust as the topper, but we'll see how that goes here in a minute. It'll be a great lesson in dealing with last-minute problems. Now, if you can't find this particular pie crust pie pan combo at the store, there's also a popular 2-pack of Pillsbury rolled up pie dough that people seem to always have around, or worst case, use puff pastry sheets. Then you just need to lay that first roll of pie dough inside a 9-inch pie pan. But what if I don't have a 9-inch pie pan? Don't freak out. You can just use a handy-dandy cast iron skillet. But what if I don't have a pie pan and I don't have a cast iron skillet? Don't freak out. Just use a large souffle ramekin like this one. But what if I don't have a pie pan, I don't have a cast iron skillet, and I don't have a large souffle ramekin? Well, just use a 2-quart baking dish like this Pyrex one. This is not that hard, I promise. You can even skip that bottom layer of dough if you want to make this whole thing even easier. But it is a nice touch, so try your best. Okay, now you have a pan and your bottom layer of pie dough is ready. Just fill it 3/4 of the way with your chicken pot pie filling. Depending on what pan you have, you may have enough leftover filling to make 2 pies, so prepare ahead of time and grab more dough at the store. If you don't want to mess with 2 pies though, you can also just heat the leftover filling as is and serve it on the side because it is still delicious. After the filling, take that second sheet of dough and, well, hold on. So, that second pre-made sheet of dough I purchased must have been beat up somewhere along the way because it was completely shattered when I tried taking it out. But again, don't freak out. Sprinkle some flour on your counter, get a rolling pin out, and work that dough back into something you can use. Once you have a normal-ish looking sheet of dough again, drape it over the top of your pie, trim off any extra bits that are hanging over the edge, and pinch the dough up against the outer rim, forming a nice seal. Now that you're finally done with all that dough work, use a basting brush and give the top of your pie a nice wash with whole milk. The milk will help brown and lightly shine the crust once we start cooking. Last but not least, take a knife and give your pie a few vent holes so the steam has a place to escape without bubbling up and deforming your pie while cooking. All right, we have filling and we have dough shaped like a pie, so let's go outside and get this thing on the smoker. I'm working with my big green egg today, but any setup that can smoke indirect at 400 degrees Fahrenheit will work just fine. Indirect means no flames or high heat directly beneath your pie. My green egg has a ceramic shield that keeps the pie mostly safe from scorching. If you're using a pellet smoker, just set it to 400, throw your pie on the side furthest away from the heat vent, and go watch TV. If you're working with a stick burner, slide that pie to the opposite side of your firebox and go chop some more wood. You hopefully get the idea. Once you're showing that sweet blue clean smoke and you're locked in at a solid 400, toss in your pie and come back to check on it in about 30 minutes. You know it'll be done when the pie crust is golden brown and flaky. This one finished right at about 55 minutes, but timing really does vary, so start checking at 30 and gauge it from there. I was really happy with how this pie turned out coming off the smoker. The crust had a beautiful golden tone and it was just starting to flake up, but nothing got overdone or burnt. Timing really is important, so once you see the crust starting to brown, keep a close eye on it and pull it early, not late. Tasting this smoked chicken pot pie blew me away. Every little crumble of crust had this fantastic smoke flavor. The filling was everything you'd expect from a homemade chicken pot pie, and then that smoke was just this perfect cherry on top. There wasn't a crumb left in that pan, and it's already being added to our regular rotation for family dinners. For those of y'all curious about the leftover filling, I tossed my extra filling into that souffle ramekin and laid a small sheet of puff pastry over it to make a second single layer chicken pot pie in our oven. It was good, but man, that smoke really does make a big difference. That'll do it for this one, and thank y'all so much for watching. I'm always happy to hear from my viewers, so feel free to leave any questions or feedback in the comments below, and I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as I can. Now, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything, it means the world to me, and you'll have access to countless recipes with more content to come. All right, y'all, take care.